All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Redevelopment Commission meeting on October 17th, 2022. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Deb Hutton here.
Deborah Meyerson here.
Martha Street here.
Sarah Bowerly-Dansman here.
Cindy Canarney here. All right, staff present.
John Zodi with the Hand Department.
Christina Finley, Hand Department.
Larry Allen Legal.
Adam Wason, Public Works.
Jeff Underwood, City Controller, Treasurer.
Hey, Brent Pierce is here from Hand.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is reading of the minutes, October 3rd, 2022, and executive summary for October 3rd, 2022. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Deborah Meyerson. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Sorry.
We have a first and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, minutes pass. Next item is examination of claims for September 30th, 2022 for $202,834.62. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Deb Hutton, I move to approve the claims for September 30th, 2022 as stated.
Deborah Meyerson, I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No one opposed? All right, claims are approved. Next item is an examination of payroll registers, October 7th, 2022, for $34,420.85. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Deborah Meyerson, I'll make a motion to approve the examination of payroll registers from October 7th.
And Sarah Bowerly-Dansman, I'll second.
First and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Next item on the agenda is report of officers and committees. Is there a director's report?
There's Madam President. If it's okay with the commission, I'll give my report, and then Mr. Crowley isn't here tonight, but did have one thing he wanted to update the commission on. So if it's okay, I'll just go ahead and give the business development report as well. On the Hand Department side, we are in the process of migrating to a new community development software system. So just wanted to let the commission know that's taken a lot of staff time and something we're working through. We've been using the same systems for several years, and now it's an entirely new one, so we're working through that. And so just want to let you know that we'll be coming online. We're going to be communicating with our property owners and managers. This is basically revamping the entire rental inspection workflow software system, going from sort of two systems to one, and it's a gigantic change. So we are working through that, and we'll be communicating with folks as we move through this process. You will see rehab guidelines in November. Those we're running a little behind on those just because we've had this going on and some other things, but you will see the rehab guideline updates for your consideration during the month of November. With business development, Mr. Crowley wanted to let the commission know that the Kiln Collective for the Kiln building in the Trades District in the 600 block in North Madison did receive the approval of the certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Commission for their one-story phase one renovation. So the legal department's working with the collective to finalize the closing, and that's expected in the next few weeks. So some good progress on that. It was a robust discussion with the HPC, and so he thought you'd want to know that as well on the RDC end. So that concludes my report unless there are any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Zodi? If not, is there a legal report?
I think that covered most of my portion of the legal report, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Is there a treasurer's report?
No report. Happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. And Mr. Zodi gave the business development update, so we'll move into new business. First item on the agenda is Resolution 22-65, approval of match funding for resurfacing of Winslow. Who'd like to speak to us regarding this?
Got Adam Wason here, the Director of Public Works.
Hey, good evening. Adam Wason, Public Works Director for the City of Bloomington. This is an application to NDOT for their Community Crossings Grant Program. This is a 50-50 matching program that we've had some great success with in the past. We've redone College Mall Road with this. We've just recently finished up Smith Road out on the west or east side of town, on the east side of the city, and have had several other projects, including Kirkwood that we redid. So this is going to be from just west of Walnut at the bridge that goes over Clear Creek there, and then it would head east to Allendale. This would be a pavement resurfacing project, which would mean we would do up to a couple inches of milling off the top of the surface right now, and then put back new surface, new lane markings, crosswalks, all the striping, those sorts of things. So it's a 50-50 match program, with this being with the request for the match coming through the Redevelopment Commission with the TIF funds. Kind of unique circumstances of the last few years with COVID and the downturn, with some of the revenue drops in the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, and then the fact that we were able to do an additional project this year. We were looking for some other sources of funding, and Controller Underwood and Mr. Zodi thought this might be a good opportunity to utilize some TIF funds for this. So happy to answer some questions.
May I just make a point? It looks like Commissioner Cassidy is joined by Zoom, so.
He has, but in order to participate as a member, so he would have to turn on his camera because he needs to be able to be seen as well as heard for the meeting. So just anybody that's going to participate electronically, just make sure that we do that. So if Mr. Cassidy, if he's able to turn on his camera, if not, he's welcome to obviously sit in, but he won't be able to vote.
So who's going to ask him?
We sent him a message.
Okay.
Oh,
to
okay, sure.
give him a heads up.
So make sure we knew it was on. All right, there he is.
There we go.
That's very distracting.
Your face.
Sorry, guys.
Could, but
So I have a question.
Sure.
Previously, I had reached out regarding just getting better understanding as we get these kinds of projects through kind of why the particular project and how it fits into a broader plan. And what I received back was, I think, really useful information about how there's like a pavement condition index that rates road services from 1 to 100, and kind of how that ended up placing this portion of road high on the list for this type of funding. So I just was I think that's very useful for us to understand as we are, approving these sorts of requests. And so I don't mind, approving this particular request, but I'm wondering, is there a way to put that kind of information into future resolutions, just so that there's better understanding of why these particular projects are being requested for funding rather than others? I think that would add to kind of an understanding of why this particular project.
Sure, and so I'll just full disclosure, my background is not necessarily construction, it's more on operations management, but what I will tell you, and we work very hard on this, so since my tenure in Public Works began, almost 7 years now, so I'll just give you a little background on pavement condition indexing and how we make paving decisions. So previously, the way we knew the condition of our roadways throughout the entire city was a very manual process, where a couple crew members in a truck, would, about a 7, 6, and it was very manual, very time consuming. In 2016, when I began my tenure in Public Works, I was learning about all the things we do, and that was one of the first things they were in the process of doing. I said, really, this is the best way we could do it? And the answer was, well, no. So in 2017, for the first time ever, we actually had a pavement condition index done for all of the lane miles of roadway under our responsibility. This is a really pretty high-tech way of doing things, in terms of they use a LiDAR technology on a mobile van, where it gets 1 to 100 condition index ratings for every cross-section of roadway that is under our maintenance. It is a trove of data that we'd never had, and it allowed us to really take a look at how we make our paving decisions. So as part of our asset management requirements to be able to apply for programs like this, we update that every 3 years. We currently have a draft of the newest pavement condition index data that we'll be able to release publicly on our website probably within a couple months. We're refining some of that right now. But from that data, it's going to rate every one of the road sections in our responsibility from 1 to 100. From there, we then, in order to make paving decisions, we're looking not only at the overall condition of the roadway, but also traffic volumes and things. So the classification of the roadway, is it an arterial, is it a main, is it a neighborhood connector? And so just kind of in a very general sense, so a very low-rated road that might be a condition of 30 or 40, but only has a couple hundred cars per day, isn't going to receive the same priority as a 30, 40 rating with 4,000 cars per day. So we're taking all of those sorts of things we're taking the traffic volumes into account, as well as the overall condition of the segment of road. In particular, and we can definitely, if we come back with requests like this into the future to the RDC, we can definitely include that information, what the rating is, where it stands in terms of other roads, and overall why we chose that. The main reason for choosing this section is its pavement condition index rating is low, lower than we want for a road that receives that volume of traffic. We've also put in extensive other investments into the area with the side paths, with other projects, and so this is kind of like the finishing touch on the corridor for right now. Our original hope was to take it all the way to High Street with engineers' estimate and current projections on asphalt costs. We just couldn't make that happen. We'll do the other section from Allendale to High Street in-house as part of our paving program next year. So, but yeah, it's basically the condition and the volume of traffic that really is part of the major equation to choose our paving projects. So hopefully that helps.
It does, thank you.
When you guys apply to NDOT, you have to submit all that information and probably more in order to gain approval, correct?
Yes, so our asset management plan is required to be updated every 3 years per NDOT to be eligible as we're called an LPA, a local participating agency. And so in order to be eligible for any of their fundings, whether through the matching grant program, through the MPO, et cetera, we need to be updating that and meeting their timeframes for that.
So is the resurfacing exclusively for motor vehicles? Are there pedestrian enhancements that are also part of this?
So the pedestrian enhancements have really already occurred. So the side path construction on the north side of Winslow, that it was called the Henderson-Winslow High Side Path Construction Project. So from all the way from the B line to High Street now has a side path, other than one small section on the hill going down the hill.
Well, but on the north side of the street, there's definitely some it's not that continuous. I mean, I've seen, anyway, I'm talking about basically east of Allendale.
Right, that's what I'm...
Right, so I'm just saying that both on the north and the south side, I guess it's kind of a grade issue for sure if you're going out of the goat farm. On the south side of the street, but on the north side of the street too, it's kind of mixed in terms of pedestrian, because there's even that frontage kind of area that's, like the 1700 block.
So short answer is no, this does not have pedestrian side path or sidewalk improvements. Those aren't eligible funds for the Community Crossing Grant Program. I know that the engineering and planning and transportation departments are working on additional planning for that area. The sidewalk is continuous on the south side from Allendale all the way down to the roundabout with this.
Yeah, it's maybe just kind of rough because it's kind of that steep grade.
On the steep grade there, but yeah,
There's steps.
on the.
Right, I'm talking about accessibility. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at accessibility. That's again, especially on the north side where.
The north side, I know, poses a lot of challenge with the section. I can't think of the name of the road. Just as you get up the hill, if you're headed west up the hill, and then you've got the first right-hand turn with that like weird frontage with the tree grove there. There's some property issues there, some right-of-way issues. I know they've explored it in the past. But so yes, short answer with this is no, we don't have pedestrian improvements included. A lot of this section, again, had major improvements last year with the not only the side path, but the crossings to the pedestrian crossings. So
It's beautiful once you go west of Allendale. I'm just trying to figure out, because especially because you got the Jackson Creek Trail.
Yep.
And trying to kind of find, again, especially focusing on accessibility of being able to, for all users to have access to the trail system. And right now there's kind of that gap between basically the area that we're talking about. That's the focus of the motor vehicle resurfacing. So I'm just trying to get a sense of when and what opportunities, despite obviously certain grade, land acquisition questions.
And so one other thing to think about there too is, you know, for folks that have been around city government for some time, Public Works has kind of changed over the years with what our roles and responsibilities are in terms of construction. So it used to be that the engineering department and all transportation activities pre-2012 were all housed in Public Works. The way it breaks down now is Public Works is more of a maintenance division than a construction division. So planning and transportation is going to envision a project with the transportation plan in mind. Engineering is going to design and build it, and Public Works will maintain it. But like I said, I know they are looking at that kind of corridor and area with the Jackson Creek Trail improvements that are forthcoming as well. But unfortunately, no, not with this project. We
So
don't.
it wasn't Public Works that was involved with the multi-use path?
No, that's
Okay.
going to be planning, transportation, engineering. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was going to mention one other thing, but I can't remember what it was now. Oh, and you know, so there will be, and this isn't, you know, for walking or mobility challenged individuals, but we will include, you know, the bike. There will be on-street bike lanes and things as part of the pavement marking project, but not sidewalk or side path improvements.
Also, it ends at
Allendale.
Allendale, so it doesn't even go to that.
No, originally we were
Which
trying to scope it to
yeah.
High Street, but again, the resurfacing will just be, that Allendale to High Street portion will just be done in-house as part of our paving program, which will require us to update any ADA ramps that aren't in compliance, things like that.
It will be nice when that one section is finished because
Yep.
with what was established on, you know, just east of that on Still Rogers Road there down to the circle was a really fantastic improvement because that was very treacherous for bikes.
Yep.
So that hill back up is also treacherous.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
I just add one other comment real quick. So this is kind of like a preliminary action of the RDC in the sense we're still waiting to hear if we've been awarded the grant. As if the RDC does support this, we'll obviously be back with contracts, things like that, that would then require further action. That would, you know, final costs after we get the project out to bid. Hopefully we get awarded the grant, we get it out to bid, and then come back and say, hey, here's what we're doing.
Awesome, thank you. All right, if no other questions or comments from commissioners, I'll entertain a motion on Resolution 22-65. Oh, yes. Are there any questions or comments from the public?
I had a couple of quick questions. My name is Dave Askins with the B-Square Bulletin, and the first question relates to Director Wason's final comment, which was related to sort of what this actually does. I thought that the RDC had already sort of taken this first step by creating the project. So there's a project form and there's an amount of $500,000. And so it wasn't totally clear to me how today's action is different from sort of reaffirming that previous action. So some additional clarity on that would be great for me to be able to provide to readers. And then a more substantive question I have is, what makes it legally possible to spend TIF on a project like this? So it's not a new road, so we're not developing a road. We're just maintaining an existing road. And when I say just maintaining, I don't mean to disparage the necessary activity of maintaining roads by resurfacing them. But, you know, it's it's an activity that's supposed to be funded with a different source, namely the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund. So I guess my question is maintenance of an existing infrastructure facility explicitly allowed for in the state statute on how TIF funds are expended? Or is there some specific wording that we're interpreting to include maintenance? Or maybe the problem is, maintenance is too weak a word for what this is. So maybe the answer is, well, maintenance is filling potholes. Resurfacing a road is something else that, it's a word that we can then find in the statute and say, this is why TIF funds can be used for this. So anyway, that's the nature of my question. And it would be, I understand there's no legal obligation of the RDC to answer questions from people during public commentary, but you're certainly not going to answer it unless I ask you. So, thanks.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Actually, on that first point, I do want clarification because I thought that this was approval for, it's a not to exceed amount.
So I think Larry and I might have gotten crossed here. I thought I was coming back to answer some questions from the previous meeting that you had, and that we'd come back with a contract once we, put it out to bid and such. So that might just be Larry and I not being fully on the same page there and wanting to make sure the commission was fully up to speed.
I think given that, actually, and that was my mistake, so I apologize to the commission. So given that you all had approved the project, so I don't know that there would be a need to actually vote on this specific resolution since we don't have those contracts in hand. My understanding was that the grant had been awarded and that this was the matching portion. No, it's my mistake, so I apologize to the commission. And just to preemptively go ahead and answer Mr. Askin's second question, since that's provided to us rhetorically, but certainly important question. Yeah, this is something more than maintenance is essentially the reason that the complete resurfacing of the road and integrating it with the current improvements, and as Mr. Wason also mentioned, like the necessity to upgrade like any ADA ramps and things like that, we see that more as a public improvement as opposed to just merely maintenance. Merely maintenance might be just putting a smooth blacktop on top of it or filling the pothole. This is taking it down back, as my understanding is, taking it down all the way down to a different level, rebuilding it back up, and then adding some features that would be necessary into the road itself. So for that reason, we interpret it as a public improvement under the statute as opposed to merely maintenance. So my apologies. I certainly, we try to communicate as best as possible, and sometimes I just don't understand the nuance of the projects that have happened. So that's my mistake.
I like hearing about how we do this kind of figuring out the different kind of grades of the road surface. So this is very informative to me.
Fun fact, since we don't have to take time to vote, I'll add, we're also getting that a similar level of data for all of our sidewalks, which is something last time around we had poor, fair, good ratings. This time we'll have a more numerical rating with better information there. So even though I'm not a construction person, all that data does really, it's pretty fascinating how they get it and how we use it then. So yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, hopefully I'll be back in a few weeks with a positive grant recommendation from the state and a bid to seek award.
And one quick question
Sure.
based on Mr. Allen's clarification. If when reading the resolution, is there something that we can look for or understand in terms of distinguishing between, let's say, the idea of maintenance, versus what can we read in the resolution or what's provided that would let us understand whether there's public improvement, rebuilding, et cetera, going on?
Certainly. Well, I think we can work to make sure that gets in there.
Sure. Good.
All right, so it sounds like no need for a vote on resolution 22-65. So with that, we'll move on to resolution 22-67, approval of funding for construction administration of Griffey Dam Crossing Project. Who'd like to speak to us regarding this?
Tim Street, Director of Operations for the Parks and Recreation Department. And he's joining us online, by the way.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Commissioners. I apologize I am not able to be there with you in person this evening. You'll recall I saw you a couple of weeks ago for approval of the project for the Griffey Dam and Trail Crossing. Tonight we have a contract with Mater Design for construction, preparation, and administration in order to get this project out to bid. The contract is not to exceed $12,500, and for this, Meter Design will update the drawings that were prepared as part of the original scope of work for the Griffey project. Pull those out. We're going to make a couple tweaks based on some feedback from CVU, and then we'll also be available for construction administration throughout the project, including bid doc preparation and engineering support as things come up that may need to be answered. After that, we will prepare bid documents and hopefully work to get this project out to bid towards the end of the year or the very start of the new year. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners?
Looking good.
Any comment from the public? If not, I'll entertain a motion on Resolution 22-67.
Deb Hutton, I make a motion to approve Resolution 2267.
Deborah Meyerson. I'll
Randy
second.
Cassidy, I'll second.
Can't see Randy.
Yeah, he's there. He's
All right, we have a first and a second. I need a vote via roll call, please.
Deb Hutton, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes.
Sorry, Sarah Bowerly Dansman, yes.
Okay. Randy Cassidy, yes.
Cindy Canardi, yes. Resolution 22-67 passes. All right, next item of
Thank you very
business on the agenda is any general business discussion from the commissioners. Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So motion.
All right, all those in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
good night.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Wow.